The Oracle Network.
Hi there, my name's Elise and I am a lawyer in the Pacific Northwest. I host this podcast, True Crime Cat Lawyer, with my co-host Winston, my cat. She is a mustache, bow-tied, fierce little ball of sass, and we both come to you every other Thursday telling some stories from our hometown of the Pacific Northwest. We try to cover cases from Oregon, Washington, Alaska. We're hoping to cover some from Canada soon. And we just like telling crime stories that are lesser known in the true crime community, but we do also cover some of the big ones. And if you are interested in learning more about our podcast, True Crime Cat Lawyer, you can head over to our website, truecrimecatlawyer.com, or you can send us a quick email at truecrimecatLawyer@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram and Twitter, and we are available on pretty much every podcast platform that you will listen to. We hope you enjoy what you hear, and we hope you'll tune in. Thanks.
The only thing better than true crime told to you by sisters is true crime told to you by identical twin sisters. That's why I have to tell you about Grizzly Grapes podcast. Every week, sisters Andrea and Emily bring you true crime, wine, and all things Saturnine. But it's not just all murder and the missing. They cover everything spooky and macabre. They're rated 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, and recently they dove deep with a 2-part episode covering the Diet Love Pass incident. So make sure you check out Grizzly Grapes on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts, or click the link in the show notes.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another week, another episode of Not Your Normal Murder. My name's Mary.
And I'm Deirdre.
Tonight we are covering the murder of Laci and Conner Peterson and the case against Scott Peterson. This is probably one of the most well-known and talked about cases of all time, one of the most famous cases of family annihilation. This case was highly covered in the media during the time of the case and since then. Scott Peterson was found guilty of the murders of his wife and son and was sentenced to death. He has been on California death row for nearly 20 years. In the past several years, documentaries and podcasts have come out introducing new reasonable doubt in the case. Scott has a lot of supporters who advocate for his release and to find the quote-unquote real killer of Laci and Conner. When I started researching this episode, I wanted to touch on every single fact or rumor. But since there is so much information on this case, it really became quickly overwhelming. All of the information I could find was either by pro-Scott or anti-Scott groups, and it became really difficult to fact-check every single thing to make sure it wasn't biased. So I decided to make this into 2-parters. In the first episode, we'll go over the case and what I think are the key factors. In the second episode, we will go over alternate theories and whether Scott got a fair trial or not. So for this episode, I want to briefly go over the next case, just in case someone isn't familiar, and to refresh the memories of those who are. Next, I want to break the case down into what I consider the 2 key factors that I find the most important: Scott's alibi and whether Laci was still alive the morning she disappeared. Laci Denise Rocha was born May 4th, 1975. She moved to Modesto, California as a small child with her mother, brother, and stepdad. She attended California Polytechnic State University. In 1994, she met Scott Peterson while visiting a friend at work. After meeting Scott, she told her mother she had met the man she was going to marry. Scott had dreams of being a professional golfer, but after his relationship with Laci became serious, he switched his aspirations to working as a businessman. After 2 years of dating, Lacey and Scott moved in together. Later, prosecutors would allege that Scott had 2 affairs at this time, and Scott did admit on a recorded conversation with Lacey's brother that he did cheat on Lacey before they were married.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, so he had a conversation with the brother, and he was assuring the brother that like he didn't cheat during the marriage. It was all before the marriage, which, you know, we know is a lie now because of Amber Fry.
Oh my God. Personally, I don't understand why, if there's cheating before you're married, why you would get married.
Yeah, like obviously not blaming her, but that's just a really big red flag.
Did she know about it though?
I don't know, actually. That's a good question.
Yeah. Wow.
When Lacey graduated college, the couple got married, and soon after, Scott graduated college. They opened a little bar together called The Shack, but sold the business in 2000 and bought a house in Modesto. Which that right there, like, reminds me so much of Gone Girl. Remember how he has a bar called The Bar?
No, I've only seen Gone Girl once.
Oh my
I don't
God.
even know if I've read the book.
Okay.
I can't remember.
She's like my favorite author. I think she only has about 3 books, and that's one of my all-time favorite movies. I love Ben Affleck. I don't care if that makes me a chug. It is what it is.
Everything makes you a chug nowadays.
So they both settled into careers, and in 2002, Scott and Lacey announced to their family that they were pregnant with their first son, a boy to be named Connor, who was due in February 2003. In November 2002, Scott would meet a woman named Amber Fry, a single mom. He and Amber became romantically involved, and Scott told Amber that he was a widower and that this was his first Christmas without his wife. On December 23, 2002, the day before Lacey disappeared, Lacey and Scott went to a friend of Lacey's to get Scott a haircut. Prosecutors would later say that Scott had told people that day that he was going to go golfing on Christmas Eve, a hobby that he was still passionate about. Lacey would talk to her mother around 8 p.m. that night, and that was the last confirmed witness to talk to Lacey besides Scott before she disappeared. On Christmas Eve, Lacey was 8.5 months pregnant. Scott would tell police that he saw Lacey around 9:30 a.m. She had been shopping on the computer and watching Martha Stewart. She told him that her plans for the day was to mop the floors, bake cookies, and walk the dog. Scott had decided to drive to Berkeley Marina to go fishing, which was about a 90-minute drive each way.
Wow. That's really far.
Yeah, and he, so he wasn't actually going to go fishing. He just wanted to get the boat on the water just to see how it was. That's just a really long drive to just do that.
Yeah, because you could test the boat on any body of water.
Yeah, so the story is he wanted salt water, so he was trying to get to the ocean. I'm not a boat person at all, but I don't really, does it make that big of a difference if you're just testing it out just to see how it is? If you're on salt water or fresh water?
I have literally no idea.
I feel like it doesn't, but I could be totally wrong.
Maybe it depends on the type of boat it is. I don't know. Because wasn't it like a semi-small boat?
It was a small boat. It was like a 2-person boat.
Yeah, like a regular little fishing boat.
Yeah. But the other thing is it was really cold. I mean, yeah, this was California, but it was December 24th. The high that day was 49 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, that is pretty chilly.
That's cold.
That's the high. So that means in the morning it's probably in the 30s.
Well, and on the ocean.
Yeah.
That's gotta be cold.
Yeah.
Multiple neighbors have given statements that later that morning they saw the Petersons' dog, Mackenzie, wandering the neighborhood. Mackenzie was put back into her yard by a neighbor at 10:30 a.m. Another neighbor testified to then seeing Mackenzie about 10:45, although from what I could tell, it doesn't seem like that neighbor tried to return Mackenzie. And then a third neighbor who has been unidentified but spoke with the newspaper, the Modesto Bee, gave a statement that she also returned Mackenzie to the Peterson yard. But none of these neighbors saw anything out of place during that time that they were in contact with the Peterson backyard. Scott would call Lacey on the way home from fishing about 2:15 p.m., leaving a now infamous phone message. He tells her that he is on his way home and that he loves her. Scott got home about 90 minutes later. He would tell police that he found Mackenzie in the yard and Lacey's car was in the driveway, her purse was in the house, but there was no Lacey. He took a shower and washed his clothing and then began calling family members looking for Lacey. Often criticized is that instead of the police, Scott first called Lacey's mother. He did not try Lacey's cell phone. And instead of saying something like, "Is Lacey there?" allegedly, he began by saying, "Lacey is missing."
That is weird. Now that I'm thinking about it, if I came home and we lived near my husband's parents and my husband is not there but his car's there and his wallet's there, I wouldn't immediately call his mom. I would call his cell phone.
So to play devil's advocate, he did call her cell phone on the way home from the marina and she didn't answer.
Wow.
And this is 2002, so people were not attached to their cell phones. And it's Christmas Eve.
I mean, I understand she was supposed to have plans with her mom, so I know that, like, it wasn't out of the blue to call the mother.
Yeah.
But I just feel it's weird that he didn't try her cell phone at least one more time.
I do think that would make sense to have tried her cell phone at least one more time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is very disputed as to whether his opening statement was "Lacey is missing" or if he did say "Is Lacey there?" But it does kind of get backed up by Lacey because Lacey's dad actually called 911. He's the one that called 911 and reported Lacey missing after Scott called Lacey's mother and stepfather. And what he told the dispatcher is, "My son-in-law just said that my daughter-in-law is missing." So it does kind of sound like he did open up with "Lacey's missing," not, "Hey, where's Lacey? I don't know where Lacey is."
Well, couldn't he have done both? Couldn't he have said, "Hey, is Lacey there?" And then they say, "No, she's not." He could have said, "Lacey's missing."
Yeah, so it's very disputed. And at this point, Lacey's mother and stepfather, well, at this point in time, they liked him. But now in the year we're talking, 2021, her family does not like Scott. So who knows? Because their side's biased, Scott's side is biased.
Right.
And it is true that from the very beginning, the police did not like Scott and they found him suspicious. Responding police would say that one of the first indications that they did not like Scott was that he had a phone book next to the phone that was open to a defense attorney.
Oh, yeah, I heard that. That is so suspicious.
Well, it was an ad, so maybe it's a coincidence.
But who did he need to call that he had the phone book out?
I mean, I don't know, because I don't think I've ever used a phone book. But
I did when I was younger, before, like, you could Google everything, but...
No, I mean, by the time I got over my phone anxiety, you could just Google everything, so...
Okay.
Christmas Eve and Christmas Day are historically slow news days, and this case became front page news quickly. And the search for Lacey became massive. On December 30th, Amber Fry came forward to police and told them that she was in a relationship with Scott and that he had told her that he was a widower. She then worked with police to record conversations with Scott. One conversation which took place the next day on New Year's Eve and actually took place during a candlelight vigil for Lacey, Scott told Amber that he was traveling.
Mm-hmm.
On April 13th, 2003, a couple walking the San Francisco Bay found the body of an infant male with his umbilical cord still attached.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine those poor people?
I know.
They must have PTSD.
You would have to.
I would just, anytime I walked anywhere for the rest of my life, I'd be paranoid I would see it again.
Yeah. And you probably would. Your mind would make you see it.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens when you're traumatized.
Oh my gosh.
The body was actually very well preserved. It was very quickly identified as Connor Peterson. The next day and 1 mile down the beach, a second body was found, but this was an extremely decomposed body of a female. Her head and her limbs were gone, and she was identified as Lacey Peterson.
How did they identify her without dental records or fingerprints? Was it like DNA?
That's actually a very good question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they must have had to test the body's DNA with Lacey's family.
Well, yeah, because it wasn't just bones. Like, she still had flesh left.
Yeah.
Her uterus was left. Most of her organs were gone, but her uterus was left, so they would be able to get blood and DNA.
Right.
Police had been tailing Scott for weeks, and on April 18th, he was arrested near a golf course. He claimed he was on his way to play golf with his brother and his dad. His hair was bleach blonde, which he later claimed came from swimming in a pool that had just been chlorinated.
That's not how this works.
I'm not super familiar with the science behind chlorine, but I've never heard of that before.
Well, you and I both have dark hair like Scott Peterson, and we used to be little fish in the summer when we were kids, and our hair never turned blonde.
Yeah. And okay, that having bleach hair does not make you a murderer. Just say, yeah, I dyed my hair blonde.
Yeah, that makes it more suspicious that it's such an obvious lie.
And it's such a stupid lie. In his Mercedes was found $15,000 in cash, 12 Viagra pills, which, in case somebody doesn't know, is for erectile dysfunction. He also had camping and survival equipment, including a water purifier, clothing, 4 cell phones, a net and a tarp, multiple hunting knives, an axe, duct tape, a shovel, credit cards, rope, and his brother's driver's license.
Okay, you know what, though? Is if he is trying to, like, go somewhere, be off the grid or something by himself, it just really makes me wonder why he needed Viagra. Like, he must have been planning to have sex wherever he was going.
He's like, I don't know where I end up, but I gotta be prepared.
Yeah, I can never not be prepared.
Obviously, sex is an extremely important thing to him.
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't even think to... I mean, I don't need Viagra because I'm a female.
Yeah.
But, like, if I'm packing to, like, go off the grid, I wouldn't think about, like, oh, I
Lube
better
or
make sure I have
something.
my Viagra.
Yeah. Well, what was interesting is he was saying that he was on his way to play golf, and he had all these things in his car, but he actually did not have a set of golf clubs in the car. The Peterson family told the media that Scott was living in his car to avoid the media. That's why he had so much stuff. Which, I don't know. I mean, axe, shovel, duct tape. I don't know about that, man.
Yeah, that's interesting. And $15,000 is a lot of money. I can understand a few hundred. Like, you're living in your car, you might need to go to McDonald's and get some food. $15,000?
In cash.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And he also had his brother's ID. And the way that they explained that was they said that he had been going golfing, and his brother belonged to a golf club. And so he, club as in like a golf course club. And so he was using his brother's ID to pretend to be his brother so that he could play for free.
Okay, that's like the only acceptable explanation to me. But it looks like if you're dyeing your hair, you have all these, like, supplies to last out, like, on your own in the woods somewhere, and you have $15,000 in cash and your brother's ID. It looks like you're trying to, like, change identities and disappear.
It doesn't look good.
Yeah.
It does not look good. It doesn't look believable. Scott was arrested for the murder of Lacey and Connor. His trial began June 1st, 2004, and lasted until November 12th, 2004.
Is it one of the longest trials in history?
I don't know that as a fact, but
I would think so.
GD, that's a long trial.
I feel bad for those jurors. Oh, gosh.
And I don't know if they were sequestered, but I think they were sequestered for at least the part where they were deliberating. I think they were sequestered for at least the deliberation.
Wow.
And he was found guilty. He was sentenced to death. In 2018, the California governor put a moratorium on the death penalty, meaning everybody on death row in California cannot be executed while that governor is still the governor. Which I can't believe it was only 2019. I thought that was a long time ago they did the moratorium.
Maybe you're thinking of Illinois.
Yeah, Illinois had the moratorium for a very long time.
Right. Believe it or not, like, everybody thinks that California is, like, a super liberal state, but they do have some really conservative values still.
Yeah.
And that would be one of them.
Yeah.
They waited till 2019 to have a moratorium.
Yeah. And, I mean, that's a governor by governor decision.
Yeah.
In August 2020, the Supreme Court upheld Scott's murder conviction but overturned his death sentence. The original trial judge had dismissed jurors who opposed the death penalty without asking whether they could put that aside in judging the case, which has been ruled as unconstitutional by the Supreme Court since 1967. So that is the lowdown, basically the whole thing tied up, as concisely as I could. Now, to me, it comes down to two key factors. The first one is his alibi, because there's a lot of debate about his alibi. Like, did he need to go to the marina? Did he purposely do it so that he could take her body out there? Is there a reasonable explanation for why he did it? And so that's one of the first things we're going to cover. And the prosecution's timeline is that Scott murdered Laci on December 23rd, after she spoke to her mother. There is no forensic evidence of blood, so it is believed that he strangled or otherwise somehow suffocated her. The prosecution believes she died on the 23rd because her body was found in clothing witnesses say Laci was wearing on the 23rd, although this has actually been widely disputed. Some people are confused as to why Scott left his pregnant wife alone on Christmas Eve to spend 3 hours alone just driving round trip on top of that time he spent on the water. Scott had to pass multiple other bodies of water to get to the Berkeley Marina. Scott also told people after Laci had already gone missing that he had gone golfing that day, but he then later clarified that he had actually gone fishing. Scott would tell police and several other people that he had planned on going golfing, but then changed his mind last second because it was so cold.
Which actually, I think it would be better to go golfing if it's cold.
That's what I think. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Because especially if you're walking the course, you're going to build up a sweat.
Yeah.
But you're out on the ocean.
The
in
ocean.
30-degree weather.
Yeah. It would have been very cold that day on the water.
Yeah.
So that, to me, that doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I don't care if he wanted... Okay, it's his holiday. He wants to go blow off steam. Whatever. Maybe Laci didn't care. I don't know. Whatever. But that does not make sense to me that it was warmer to go on the ocean than it was to go golfing. That's just not true.
No matter what, it's always colder when you're on a body of water.
Yes.
Like, even if it's 90 degrees out, if you're on a boat... on a lake or in the ocean, you're gonna feel chilly at times because of the breeze.
Yes. Yeah, it's gonna be colder.
Yeah.
And so he had also told people that it was a last second decision to go out on the water because of the weather, but he had bought a fishing and boating license on December 20th, and the way that it worked there was you had to say what days you were gonna go out on the water, and on December 20th he bought a license for December 23rd into 24th.
Oh, so he can't say it was a last minute decision.
It was not a last minute decision.
So he's lying for whatever reason.
For whatever reason. I mean, maybe he just wanted to have his options open. I mean, I don't think it was very expensive. I think it was like maybe $17 or something for that. So maybe he bought it ahead of time and then was thinking, I'd rather go golfing. And then at the last second, he was like, I'd rather go out on the water. But you can't say that there was absolutely no forethought that you were going to go do this on one of those days.
Yeah, you literally cannot say that.
No.
There's proof.
Scott had bought the boat just 2 weeks prior and had spent time on his laptop researching the currents of the San Francisco Bay. However, according to the website for Scott's appeal, they claimed that this so-called research only took place for 30 seconds. Now, I looked at the computer logs myself, and I can't tell. I don't know if I just wasn't looking at it right. It's a really, really long piece of evidence. I couldn't see times on it. I can't tell how long he was looking at it. So I don't know either way. If he spent 30 seconds or 30 minutes looking at this, I can't tell.
Maybe the one you were looking at was redacted.
Yeah, I tried to go through the evidence for this case, but there's obviously thousands of pieces of evidence in this case.
Right.
It is widely reported and even declared by the prosecution that Laci didn't know about Scott's boat. Now, this is based on 2 facts, according to the prosecution, that Scott paid in cash and that none of their friends or family knew about the boat. The assumption was that Lacey was so close to her family that if she knew about the boat, somebody else would have known about the boat. But there isn't actually any evidence that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that Lacey did or did not know about the boat.
Yeah, we can't say for sure.
And I don't think it's that suspicious to buy a boat in cash. It was somebody off, I think it was through a newspaper or off the internet.
Oh yeah, the person might have said cash only.
Yeah. A lot of big purchase. I paid for my new roof in cash because the guy said he'd give me a discount. I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
$50 is $50, man.
So, yeah, it's possible that he paid for it in cash because, you know, it was a random guy off Craigslist or whatever. And maybe she was planning on bringing it up to her parents that day or whatever. Like, it just hadn't come up in conversation yet.
Yeah. Or maybe, I mean, I don't know. This is totally conjecture, but maybe she didn't feel like explaining to her family why they decided to make a big purchase 6 weeks before she gave birth. You know, maybe she didn't feel like justifying herself to other people.
Yeah, very true.
And the thing of it is that Scott was actually making about $5,000 a month in 2002. And they had a nice house. He owned a pickup truck. She owned a Land Rover. They had nice things. They didn't mind spending money.
But, I mean, isn't that still kind of an expensive area? So maybe $5,000 doesn't go as far there as it would in a smaller town, like in the Midwest.
Well, yeah, that's true. Absolutely. It's more expensive to live there. But it didn't seem like they really had a problem buying things.
Right.
And this actually was the 4th boat that Scott had owned in his adulthood. So it's not like it was totally, absolutely out of the... Like, for me, it would be out of the blue to go buy a boat. That would be bizarre.
Yeah.
But it's not bizarre for him, honestly. After the disappearance, scent dogs, not cadaver dogs, scent dogs, picked up Lacey's scent on the boat. And on the boat was a pair of pliers, and in the pliers there were 2 strands of hair. The hair has been ruled out as Scott's, but since there was not a root, Lacey has been determined to be a possible contributor, but she is not considered the definitive contributor of the hair.
But if there's no root, you'll never know the definitive.
We will never know whose hair that is. Yeah.
Right.
Well, at least not with the science we have. I wouldn't be surprised if science got better.
Right.
The defense actually has not denied that the hair is Lacey's or that Lacey's scent was on the boat. Scott told police that he brought Lacey to see the boat on December 20th at the warehouse where he stored the boat. And actually, an eyewitness has come forward and said that she saw Lacey there that day. On Scott's appeal website, they claim that the officer did not include the eyewitness account into his report and that he admitted on the stand that he decided against putting that eyewitness account in his report. Now, something that I never really put 2 and 2 together until I was researching this is there's a lot of talk about this warehouse, you know?
Yeah.
The warehouse was his place of work. Did you know that?
Yes.
Okay, that blew my mind. I thought that this was a special, storage unit, but it was actually his place of work. He was storing his boat at his place of work.
Yeah, I think I did know that. I'm not blown away by it.
Well, there's a lot of debate as to whether his boss knew or not. And I could not find a good source that said yes or no. It was very much conjecture by both sides.
Couldn't they just put him on the stand and asked him?
I don't know. I don't think he testified.
Well, I think the reason why I knew it is because I think I saw somewhere that there was, because people were suspicious about all the time that he spent at that warehouse, and I read somewhere that that's because it was his work.
Yeah, it was his work. So when he was there, he was on his work computer.
Yeah.
But people who are anti-Scott say that that's proof that Lacey didn't know because he had to hide the boat at work for her to not know.
Well, maybe that's just the only place they had to store it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he was planning on getting he probably was planning on getting a better place to store the boat because you can't just keep your boat at work forever. But it only been less than a week since he bought it.
Yeah, and maybe you have to rent a spot for storage, so maybe they were all taken, or
Especially, yeah, because it was winter. Everybody's storing their stuff.
Yeah. And then maybe, you know, they couldn't keep it at the house because they probably lived in a community with an HOA or something.
Right. But then, on the flip side of that, why was it such a rush to buy the boat if you didn't have anywhere to store it? There was no need to buy it right that second. It wasn't a need.
Okay, well, I know from personal experience that if I'm thinking about buying something and then I see like a good deal on it, like somebody's selling it on Craigslist, I'm like, okay, well, that's a sign.
I gotta get it.
I gotta get it right now.
So whether Lacey knew that Scott had a boat and stored it at work is still something that is debated. Part of Scott's alibi is that he couldn't have killed Lacey on the 23rd because she was surfing the web and watching Martha Stewart the morning of December 24th. And in fact, around 8:40 a.m. on December 24th, somebody was using the family computer to search for sunflower umbrella baskets. Lacey loved sunflowers so much that she actually had a tattoo of one. So, I mean, it's pretty likely that she was the one searching it. Some people say that perhaps Scott did do the search himself, knowing that it would look like she was the one doing it and it would be a good alibi. 2 minutes after the search for the umbrella, somebody accessed Scott's email. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe she got off and he got on and checked his email.
That's kind of suspicious.
Maybe she was checking his email. Maybe she was suspicious of something.
Maybe he wanted to make it look like she was on the computer, so he randomly searched something sunflower because he knows she loves sunflowers, and then was dumb and checked his email 2 minutes later.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah. But we'll never know. But my thought was maybe she was feeling suspicious that he was cheating, and so she checked his email.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It would be good to know, and there might be no way of knowing this, if the person entered the password. Like if they were able to look in the log.
Oh, yeah.
Because if the person entered the password, that pretty much proves it was him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I don't know. I'm not sure.
Because, like, some people have their email always logged in. And
I'm always logged into my email.
Yeah, and some people log out after each session. So that would be good. I mean, who knows? But we wouldn't be able to know that unless he, like, admitted, like, oh, yeah, log out after each session. Or I don't know.
But, I mean, if it's a shared computer, it wouldn't be weird to log out of your email because it's like a courtesy, like putting the toilet seat down. You're getting it ready for the next person to use it.
Exactly.
The defense said during the trial that either explanation for this search is good for Scott. They said that either Lacey was the one searching it, and so she was alive, or Scott was searching it as like a gift or something, and somebody who had just killed their wife or was planning to kill their wife wouldn't be searching for sunflower umbrella stands calmly if they had just done murder or was planning to do murder.
I don't think so at all. I think it looks bad for him.
I mean, I think it seems like it could have been used as an alibi. So
Yeah.
whether he's calm or not, who knows? But
What better way to establish that somebody's still alive than to
Then make-
get on the computer and
make it
Google
seem- yeah.
something that they would have Googled?
yeah, because I mean, how many cases have we covered where they take the person's cell phone and continue to text as if they're alive?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not uncommon. It might have been uncommon for 2002, but it's not uncommon.
But if he like really sat down and thought this out, like, okay, so I'm gonna make it look like she's still alive. I'm gonna Google something she would have Googled.
And if he really did do it, this was very premeditated. Because he bought the boat, he left the voicemail. Like this, if he did do this, this was very planned.
Right.
Scott would also mention to police that Lacey was watching Martha Stewart, and Martha Stewart was making cookies and meringues. And in fact, an episode of Martha Stewart was airing that morning, and there was a segment on cookies and meringues, which began at 9:48. So, supporters of Scott ask, why would Scott just sit there and watch an episode of Martha Stewart just to have this random fact if Lacey was dead or he was about to kill Lacey or was in the process of killing Lacey?
Because what other way to establish a great alibi?
Well, also, here's another thing is I don't know if there were commercials for it, but usually, don't they usually do commercials for TV shows? Like on tomorrow's episode of Martha
Yeah.
Stewart,
Oh my
we're
gosh,
going to be
you're
making
right.
meringues. And at the beginning of the episode, Martha would have been like, and on today's episode, we're making lemonade, and then later we're going to make meringues.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
So, although Scott estimated and told police that he left the house at 9:30, it has been determined that he had to have left the house between 9:48 when that segment started and 10:08 when cell phone tower data shows that he checked his voicemail and was traveling towards his office. So after he left the house that morning, he did go to the office, the warehouse, and he used the computer there from 10:30 to 10:56. The defense argues if Scott had Lacey's body in the bed of his truck, why was he just hanging out in his office all calmly? Also because anybody could have stumbled across her body just there. But apparently Scott that morning had put several large patio umbrellas in the bed of his truck.
Let me tell you about a fascinating book series called Shadowed Stars by Stephen Kautz. This epic science fiction book series is for the mature reader and available in paperback and ebook through bookstores and online stores such as Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google Play, and iTunes. Book 1 is available now, and Book 2, Shadowed Stars and the Reign of the Black Guards, will be available later this month. There are also glossy entries and short stories free to read and posted around the 20th of every month at shadowedstarsbooks.com. Book 1 is a fascinating story taking place in the year 2089, where UFO sightings and human abductions have reached an alarming rate. The book will leave you wondering, are we alone in the universe? Is there a God? What does the future hold? Do we really want to know? So make sure to check out shadowedstarsbooks.com. That's shadowed with ED, starsbooks.com. Or search on online bookstores for Stephen Kautz, that's Koutz, or click the link in the show notes.
He had stated that he was planning to take them to the warehouse for storage, except Scott actually didn't leave the umbrellas in the warehouse on Christmas Eve. And on December 26th, he took them back out of his truck and left them in his backyard.
Okay, that's super suspicious. He was using them to cover her body.
That's the theory. And
Why would you bring them all the way to work and then just take them back home to put them in your backyard again?
well, and he drove 90 minutes to Berkeley with them still in the bed of his truck.
Yeah.
But people who defend Scott say, well, if that's true, then why would he take the umbrellas out of the bed of the truck to move her body into the boat and then put the umbrellas back in the bed of the truck?
To make it look like there was never a body there.
Yeah, but I don't think that if he had the body, I don't think he would have put the body in the boat at the warehouse, because he would have had to have drove for 90 minutes with her body in the boat. He would have had to have done it at the marina. So wouldn't he have wanted her body under umbrellas for the 90-minute drive?
Yeah, because the boat, what is it, just like hitched to the back?
Yeah, it was just hitched to the back of his
Oh,
truck.
he would never drive. No. He would never in a million years. Because one big bump and the body would fly out of the car.
Yeah.
Or fly out of the boat. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes zero sense.
Yeah. So I think it does make more sense that he would have forgotten, quote unquote, about the umbrellas and taken them all the way to the Berkeley Marina and then all the way back to Modesto.
Mm-hmm.
So the theory is that Scott wrapped Lacey up in a tarp and put her in the bed of his truck and then covered her body up with the umbrellas. Unfortunately, the umbrellas were never tested for evidence such as DNA or sniffed by cadaver dogs.
Which that should have been the first thing they did.
Yeah. There is this theory, and I couldn't find anything that said definitively, but there's a theory that Scott soaked his shed and the umbrellas and other things with gasoline which I guess is supposed to cover the smell of a cadaver. I don't know if that's true or not. I couldn't find an impartial source that said that was true.
That seems super dangerous. Because,
Yeah.
any little speck of fire anywhere near those things and they'll just blow up.
Yeah.
What if somebody's smoking a cigarette near it?
Yeah. Yeah. And then you've got arson on top of everything. Defenders of Scott say that if he had bought that boat just for dumping Lacey's body, that he could have found a better boat to have done so. They said that this boat is meant just for fishing and wouldn't have been able to hold Lacey's body without anybody seeing her. They say that it wouldn't make sense to attempt to dispose of her body in broad daylight. Scott's appeal website says that this boat was set up with a fish finding device. So this device is used to determine how deep water is to help the fishermen find the type of fish they want, because different types of fish swim at different depths of water.
Right.
So this thing just figures out how deep the water is, so you have kind of an idea of what fish are swimming there. Scott's defense website says that this shows Scott wouldn't have bought a boat like this with a fish finder if he just wanted a boat to dispose of his wife. And conspiracy theorists who believe Lacey was still alive after her disappearance point to the fact that they used, I don't know if sonar is the right word, but they used machines to look for things in the water, shapes in the water. They said it was so accurate that you could even see a bottle of Coke on the floor of the ocean. And they never picked up Lacey's body. And so they say that this goes to show that her body wasn't there and that Scott wouldn't have bought something with a fish finder, because Scott was using the fish finder to look for shallow water to go fishing, he said. But here's my thing is, why are we believing that his boat was where he said his boat was that day?
That's what I was just going to say. Why would he tell you where he went?
Why wouldn't he have used the fish finder to find a deep area of water and drop her body and then tell police that he was 10 miles somewhere else in shallow water?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. It's very clear why he picked that boat. Because that boat had the fish finder on it.
Yeah, so it told him how deep the water was. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I'm missing something here, but I feel like that's a really obvious as to why he got that boat.
Yeah, and it's also so he goes in the marina, and he could have gone in any direction.
Yeah.
They know where he left from, but he could have gone anywhere.
Yeah.
They're just trusting the word of somebody they think is a murderer.
Right.
Of where he went. Well, obviously he did not go there if you think he's guilty. Why would he tell you where he went?
And there was a motor. It's not like he was paddling around. He could have gone anywhere.
Yeah.
As far as why would he dump the body in broad daylight, now to me, it makes sense that he waited till Christmas Eve. It's a cold day. Most people aren't leaving their families on Christmas Eve to go cruise the San Francisco Bay when it's 40 degrees outside. And in fact, only 3 other sailing and fishing licenses were issued for that 4-day period around the holiday.
Yeah, boating is not really a Christmas activity.
No.
If it was the 4th of July, it would be suspicious.
Right.
But it's Christmas Eve.
Right. So I don't think it would have been that hard to get out on open water with nobody could see you, no eyes are on you, and you're able to remove something from your boat that you don't want people to see you remove.
It would have been more suspicious for him to go out at night.
Yeah. Yeah. So, some people are still not convinced that Lacey would have fit into the boat without anybody noticing. And I agree from certain angles. Some of the pictures I looked at, the boat looked really tiny. It looked like there's no way that something could have sat on the floor of the boat, a body could have sat on the floor of the boat without you seeing it. But it actually just depends on the angle that you're looking at it. The prosecution would actually submit pictures of a woman who was the same size as Lacey lying in multiple different positions on the floor of the boat. And each position that she did, the woman was small enough to fit on the floor of the boat without being seen over the sides of the boat.
Even with being 8 months pregnant?
Yeah. Lacey was really tiny.
Yeah.
She was a very small woman. So even when she was 8.5 months pregnant, she was still really tiny. I think she was like 150 pounds, something like that.
Mm-hmm. And she was like shorter, right?
Yeah, she was very small. So here's my thought process on it, is if he really did kill her on December 23rd, she would have been in rigor mortis by the time he got her there.
And he would not have been able to bend her so that she could have fit.
Right. So if he killed her on the 23rd, he would have had to have immediately packaged her up tiny into a tarp and hit her in the bed of his truck, or he would have had to have killed her the morning of the 24th.
I don't know if there's really any evidence that points more either way.
Yeah. So if Scott threw Lacey in the bay, how did he hide her body in the water? Well, the theory is that she was wrapped in a tarp with weights to her extremities. This would actually explain why only her torso washed ashore, because when her body decayed, her torso ripped free and floated towards the beach. So how did Scott weigh down her body? The theory is that he made his own anchors with cement. And he has admitted that he did make one anchor. It would have taken more than one anchor to weigh down Lacey's body, though, obviously.
What did he say he needed that anchor for?
So if you're just going out boating, you only need one anchor.
Oh, so it was an anchor for the boat.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he said...
I was picturing like cement blocks.
No.
Okay.
He filled like a bucket with cement and put like a little metal hook in it. Yeah.
Okay.
And so that is totally reasonable to make one anchor. What's not reasonable is to make 6 anchors.
Yeah.
And so that's disputed. How many did he really make? So did Scott make more than one anchor? There is not too much to actually argue about in this section. The theory of the extra anchors rests solely on a picture of the warehouse where Scott did make at least one anchor. In the picture, which is evidence, there is some loose gray material on the ground, which is presumably the concrete dust. And there is at least one roundish, clean area with evidence numbering signs. The defense says that in this picture, they see evidence of one anchor spot. Accusers say that they see spots for 5 or more anchors. So really, it just comes down to a matter of opinion. Do you see clean circular areas in the cement dust? Do you see one, or do you see more than one? And it's literally just a matter of opinion.
Right.
But the question comes down to, if Scott did only make one anchor, then where is the rest of the concrete? They didn't find any more concrete, so where is it?
Couldn't he have just put it in the dump? Like in the dumpster out back of the warehouse or something, and then the garbage came?
Yeah, but why would you throw out a whole bag of... Because you would only mix as much as you needed. And so you would still have a bag of dry concrete. Why would you throw that out?
Okay, but if he kept it, that wouldn't be suspicious either, though, because he's not disputing that he made an anchor for the boat.
Yeah, but there's no concrete left, so where's the concrete?
Oh, so you're saying he used it all up because he made so many.
Right.
Oh, okay. I get it.
So he does actually have an answer for that, and there's actually a really famous story now about Nancy Grace, because Nancy Grace was always, where's the concrete? Where's the concrete? Where's the concrete?
She always, like,
I know,
just takes one point and, like, does it to death.
I know. I love, she's a yappy little dog, but I love her.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this story, he said that he poured out the rest of the concrete at the end of the driveway, and they actually, I can't remember if it was him or somebody else, took her and showed her the concrete. And the story is that she didn't say anything, and she never brought it up again on her show.
Because she didn't want to, like,
she wanted to save face.
Right.
However, the question now is that actually the same concrete? So during the trial, the prosecution called a concrete expert who testified that the concrete at the end of the driveway was not the same concrete that was used to make that one anchor. But the defense called their own concrete expert who said it is the same concrete.
Okay, so if you can't agree on it, then it shouldn't be fact.
That's what this whole trial was, is this happened. No, it didn't.
Because, like, there's some things in life that are a fact.
Yeah.
2 + 2 = 4. That's a fact. The fact that you can have 2 different experts saying something is or isn't something means that there's no way to know.
I just feel like it confuses jurors because then they have to decide which expert they believe, and they're going to base that on which one they liked better, which one looked better, which one seemed nicer. That's how humans base decisions on who they believe, is who they like.
Yeah, that's true. If
So-
you have somebody that's like disagreeable and unpleasant on the stand, you're not going to want to listen to what they have to say.
Yeah. And the jurors had to decide which one of them to believe. You know?
Yeah.
The last piece of evidence of the boat is the argument over whether a person could move a body out of that boat without the boat capsizing. The defense made a video of their own people attempting to throw heavy objects out of the boat and being unable to do so because of the boat capsizing. Now, the judge wouldn't allow this to be introduced as evidence, which has been greatly criticized by those who defend Scott. Now, I tried to find counter videos of people also attempting to throw out 153-pound human-formed weight off the side of the boat, but I couldn't find any videos like that. I did find a Reddit thread where somebody said that they had that exact boat and they used to jump off the sides of it. They used to go water skiing, that you could do anything to this boat and it wouldn't capsize. But that's not evidence. I'm just saying I found a Reddit thread. That's the best I could do.
I love Reddit though. Sometimes you find out the best information from Reddit.
However, the Modesto Bee reported that the reason the judge didn't allow the defense video was because it actually was not the exact same boat that Scott had. It was a very similar boat, but it was not literally the exact same boat. It was a similar boat, but it was slightly different. There were certain things to it that were different.
So they should have used his boat. Were they not allowed to? Was it in evidence and they couldn't get it out or something?
Well, the judge offered to take the actual boat out of evidence and redo the experiment with the defense and the prosecution both present, and the defense declined that offer.
Now that's suspicious.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want to do anything to prove you're right, your theory's correct? They were afraid of them looking stupid.
And here's my thing is, okay, so what if the boat did capsize? Like I said, I'm not a boat person. Can you not just flip the boat back over and get back into it? We know that he came home and washed his clothes. We know his clothes were wet. So what if the boat did capsize? So what? Big whoop.
You know what? You're right. 100%. I mean, I do not know much about boats either. I'm not a fisherman. And I don't know about fishing boats, but I know with like a canoe or something,
Yeah.
if you fall out of the canoe and it capsizes, you just flip it back over and get back into it.
Yeah.
Maybe they're saying he wouldn't have done that because he would have been too cold in the water or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Could you get hypothermia? You probably could get hypothermia because the ocean probably was really cold.
Yeah, but
I don't know if he ran back to his truck, turned off his clothes, and turned the heat on as high as it would go.
But he wasn't planning on it capsizing. So if it did capsize when he threw the body off the side of the boat, what's done is done. So
Yeah.
he would have had to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it comes down to, could the boat have capsized? Probably. Would it definitely have?
Probably not.
Probably not. And if it did, does it matter?
100%. I literally never thought before, like, if it did capsize, so what?
Yeah.
He flipped it over and got back into it.
Possibly, yeah. Unless I'm super missing something. But what it looked like, that boat looked like you could just flip it back over. I mean, it was not a big boat.
Especially if you'd already turned off the motor.
Yeah.
Because then the motor wouldn't have burned out. And then if he had left everything on shore besides like his car keys or something, or heck, maybe he even left his car keys in the car. If there was
Yeah.
nobody else out there, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, who knows? He
The
probably
only thing-
didn't have a cell phone on him because
Yeah.
why would you?
Why would you?
Yeah.
So literally the only thing he had on him was the clothes he was wearing. Why wouldn't you just flip it back over?
Yeah. And he said the reason he washed his clothes the second he got home was because his clothes were wet.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Did he ever say why his clothes were wet?
He just said it was wet just from being out and, the waves being rough and there being wind and whatever.
Okay, so I almost feel like that proves more. He admits his clothes were wet.
Mm-hmm.
It looks to me like the boat did capsize and he had to rush home and rip off his wet clothes and wash them because they were nasty, like salt water all over them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, probably he... Yeah, I don't know if maybe he took off his clothes in the truck because they were wet. I don't know.
Right.
So the other main thing that I feel like is one of the most important parts of this case, did he, didn't he, was Lacey alive the morning of the 24th? Especially, was she still alive when he left? Because if she was still alive at 10:08 when he was on his way to the office, he did not kill her. One of the biggest points of contention is whether Lacey was seen by witnesses walking Mackenzie after Scott had left for the marina between 9:48 and 10:08 on Christmas Eve. The Scott Peterson Appeal website claims that within a week after Lacey went missing, there were 12 eyewitnesses who had come forward to report sightings of Lacey walking Mackenzie on Christmas Eve. The Scott Peterson Appeal website claims that within a week after Lacey went missing, there were 12 witnesses who came forward to report sightings of Lacey walking Mackenzie on Christmas Eve. The website goes on to say that none of the witness accounts were fully investigated, despite what the DA said to the press and in court. The website claims that some of these sightings included a witness seeing two men yell at a pregnant woman with a dog, and a man seeing a pregnant woman being shoved into a van a half block away from the Peterson home. According to the appeal website, in total, there were 24 sightings within a 1-mile radius and 7 more sightings within a 3-mile radius of the Peterson home. Some of the sightings were just of a pregnant woman by herself, some was a pregnant woman with a dog, and some was just the dog by himself.
Okay, I don't even see 24 people over a 3-week span. So I feel like maybe some of these are not super credible sightings.
I mean, I guess, like, if you went for a walk 3 miles around your neighborhood, would 24 people have seen you do it?
I don't think so. Nobody's ever outside in my neighborhood. I mean, unless they're, like, standing at the window watching me.
Yeah.
Like, I'll take my girls on a walk almost every day, and I walk for a while, like 30 minutes, and I'll see maybe 2 or 3 neighbors.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know who else has seen me if they drive by or if they are standing in their window.
Can you remember how many people you saw walk past your house yesterday?
Oh, no, I don't pay any attention. But to be fair, I have an elementary school across the street, so there's about 300 people that walk past my house every day. So I don't pay any attention.
Between 9:45 and 10 a.m. on December 24th, Homer Maldonado says he saw Lacey walking past a gas station. He remembers it being her because he remembers thinking about how pregnant she was. The gas station was about a half-mile south of the Peterson home. Vivian Mitchell, who lived about 10 blocks from the Petersons, saw who she thought was Lacey walking past her house between 10 and 10:30 a.m. on Christmas Eve. She is confident it was Lacey because the woman was so pretty, just like Lacey, and she had seen this woman walk past her house before, so on that day she felt like she recognized her. She also felt confident that the date was Christmas Eve because she remembered the sun had finally come out after several foggy days. However, the weather report for Modesto at that time indicates that fog actually came into Modesto at 6 p.m. on December 23rd and didn't clear up until Christmas morning.
So it's probably an entirely different pregnant woman on a different day.
Probably. Around 10 a.m. on Christmas Eve, Tony Freitas believes that he saw Lacey and Mackenzie at a tiny park near Santa Barbara and North Santa Ana. Martha Aguilera believes to have seen who she thought was Lacey at the same general area also around 10 a.m. And Jean Pedriolo also saw a pregnant woman with a dog in that same general area around 10 a.m. on Christmas Eve. But here's the problem is that none of these people knew Lacey Peterson that day. They didn't know who Lacey Peterson was at 10 a.m. on December 24th.
Yeah, I was going to say, your mind is so suggestible. You maybe remembered a pregnant woman walking by sometime in the past week or two.
Right.
you don't know for sure what day, what time, and that specific person.
Exactly.
Especially if you don't know them.
Yes. You do not know.
And it could have been any day.
It could have been any day. It could have been any time that morning.
Yeah.
It could have been any pregnant woman with a dog.
Unless you have like a Ring camera and the thing took a photo of it, you wouldn't know. But this is 2002. Yeah, so you would have no idea.
A neighbor of Lacey's was discovered who may have been falsely identified as Lacey. This woman also had dark hair. She was roughly the same size as Lacey. She also had a golden retriever also named Mackenzie. This woman had been recently pregnant, but actually had given birth in October, so she definitely was not pregnant on Christmas Eve. And she gave a statement that she was 99.9% sure that she didn't walk her dog on Christmas Eve. Martha Stewart's Marine segment began at 9:48 a.m. and Scott was using his cell phone heading towards the warehouse at 10:08. So presumably he left between 9:48 and 10:08. If he had left just before 10 a.m. and Lacey left at 10 a.m., it would have only taken her a 3 to 5 minute walk to get to that area where that cluster of sightings was by that gas station. Police say that they did thoroughly check out all of the witness sightings, and any that they didn't thoroughly check out was because of other evidence. This includes that the witness sightings usually said Lacey was wearing black pants, but that her body was found in tan pants. Supporters of Scott say that police didn't know what pants Lacey was wearing until 4 months after the sightings reported that she was out wearing black pants. Other evidence includes that bloodhounds were used to track Lacey's smell to see if she did go for a walk that morning, and they never alerted to her smell off the property, so police believe that she did not leave that property for at least a couple of days during that time period, and that she must have left that property in a car.
So they're saying she never walked the dog at all.
Yes.
So every single sighting is a false one.
That's what the police believe, yes. They don't believe she left the property. What I saw, and I couldn't find like really good evidence to support this, so I'm not sure if this is accurate or not, but what I read somewhere was that Lacey had been told to stop going for walks because of her pregnancy. Like, she was becoming a health problem.
Oh, which would make sense if she's a tiny woman and she's like later on in her pregnancy.
Yeah. So for me, these possible eyewitness sightings is not really strong enough evidence. I feel like there's too many maybes and what ifs. None of these witnesses knew Lacey personally, so they didn't recognize her like I would recognize you.
Right.
They just saw somebody walking past, and then they later thought, maybe it's that missing lady from the news. And like we talked about, memories are extremely flawed. And facts such as what date and what time they saw somebody walking by could very easily be inaccurate. But the biggest problem I have with the witness accounts is that even if they did see Lacey walking that morning, I don't think that that really means that Scott has an alibi. We don't know exactly what date or when Lacey was murdered. We don't know exactly what time Scott left their home and headed to the warehouse. There's about a 20-minute time period there where it could have been. And those witnesses don't even know exactly what time they saw the person they think was Lacey. So let's say that they did all see Lacey around 10 a.m. Does that mean that it could have actually been maybe 9:30? Could they have been off by 30 minutes? Is it possible that Lacey did go for a walk that morning, a really short one, and then turned around, turned on Martha Stewart, and then Scott maybe strangled her then and then loaded her into the car?
Yeah, like, okay, so let's say she did take Mackenzie for a walk, but she's supposed to be on, like, light duty, like, not supposed to walk, no strenuous activity. So let's say she decided, okay, I'm going to take Mackenzie for a walk, but I'm going to take her for, like, less than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So she walked the 3 minutes to the gas station, Mackenzie did her business, and they turned around and came home.
Yeah.
If they were at the gas station at 9:30ish, they would have been home by 9:35.
Mm-hmm.
And Martha Stewart was on at 9:48.
Yeah. Well, it probably came on at 9 or 9:30.
Yeah, but the
segment came on at 9:48.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there is time.
There was time.
And it's less of a tight time frame as, say, like Adnan Syed.
Right. And remember, because if he did strangle her, strangling takes 3 to 5 minutes.
Right.
And actually, a neighbor saw Scott loading something into the bed of his truck on the morning of Christmas Eve. He's since said it was the umbrellas, which it probably was the umbrellas.
Yeah.
But what else? What else
Yeah.
was he loading into the bed of his truck?
That's super suspicious.
And we already established that if Scott did kill her on the 23rd, she most likely would have been in rigor mortis by that morning. So unless he left her body in the truck bed overnight, her body would have been stiff in whatever position she had been left in. So the timeline that makes the most sense to me is that Lacey actually was alive on Christmas Eve morning. If he killed her, I don't think he did it on the 23rd. At 8:40 a.m., maybe she was online shopping. She didn't want to go for a long walk, so she went for a really short one. Maybe she was seen by a couple of witnesses. She came home, turned on the television. Scott strangled her, wrapped her up in a tarp, and put her in the bed of the truck, covered her with the umbrellas, came back inside and was cleaning up, looked, Martha Stewart was still on, noticed what she was talking about. And then by 10 a.m. was back in his truck on his way to his office.
Right.
Now, maybe that's too much conjecture, but that's the timeline that makes the most sense to me. I just don't think the witness accounts prove that she was alive after Scott left. We don't know if the witnesses actually saw Lacey. We don't know what day they are recalling. We don't know what time they were recalling. And we don't know exactly what time Scott left home that day.
It's too bad that gas station didn't have like outside cameras.
Yeah.
But even if they did, by the time they got them, maybe they would have been taped over.
So, to me, those are the two biggest things is, does he have an alibi for being out at the marina? And was she alive after his alibi started? And I don't think that we really can prove that she was still alive after he left. And I don't think that, I think there's plenty of evidence that proves that all of these things could have happened and he still would have had enough time to strangle her and put her in the car and get headed towards the marina.
Right.
And on the next episode, we will be covering alternate theories on whether Scott got a fair trial. So make sure you find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can email us at notyourownmurder@gmail.com. Find our TikTok at NYNMPod. Make sure you join Patreon for extra bonus content at patreon.com/NYNMPod.